right, folks, I have the distinct honor today of being able to interview Mr. John Ellis himself, the great Mr. IAQ. I first met him just last year. I mean, I've known who you are for a long time. Anybody that's followed what we do for a living in HVAC knows exactly who John Ellis is. When I say knows exactly, we know what you're known for. But I got to talk to you as just a human being at the NCI Summit back in the fall in Austin, Texas. I actually kind of met you because Anthony Wu was hanging with you, and I had got to know Anthony in a Measure Quick class, and so just kind of made that connection. There we were, just standing around talking, and just captivated by listening to you talk and just learning who you are. And you're more than what people I think know you for. And so I was like, I want to talk to this guy, right? I want people to see this side of you, and so I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man. I know you're going to be on the road soon, so we had to kind of sneak this in before you head back out to do training again. But I'd like to start with a weird question. And this weird question is this. Tell me something about you that is not normally known or publicly known. Now, I got to preface this. I saw some of your posts. I know that you played heavy metal guitar, right, in a band. You professional skater, right, at one time? Professional skater, right? Yep. And there was something else that you had. A firefighter. You were a firefighter.
Yeah,
right?
I just retired about just 4 or 5 months ago.
Is that right? So you've been a volunteer firefighter all these years?
Yeah, up here for the last 8 years up here in our mountain community. Saw a lot of fires, and I'm just a little older now.
Yeah, I was a volunteer firefighter for years until my for back and spine doesn't really allow me to do that stuff anymore. But so I know those things about you, but tell me something about you that maybe nobody would ever guess.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Really, just a pleasure to be here, and I love just talking and hashing things out. So this is a great format for that. So something people may not know about me is, and this is going to go real personal. So if you don't mind, let's put it out there.
Absolutely.
Would be my faith in God and Jesus Christ, and that when I lived in California, without fail, once a month, I got in a van, drove across the border, and I did prison ministries in Mexico. And these, well, first of all, just going into Mexico, but these are prisons, and we've probably visited half a dozen different prisons, and we would rotate and go to the same ones. And we did prison ministry, and they would bring people to us in fully chained and shackled.
Oh,
and
wow.
I know a little bit of Spanish, right? But we would have an interpreter. And to see people that are hopeless get some hope through the power of the Holy Spirit, it is very moving, and it's very real. I mean, you see it happening, and these people they're going to be there for life. And the legal system isn't the best over there, and some people may be innocent that were there, maybe not. It's not for me to judge. But when and we went there using an eyeglass ministry as the vehicle. So
Oh, wow.
we would go in there. We had a phroopter and we had an auto refractor. We had lots of reader glasses, but we also had fixed negatives, and so we could actually test eyes and make glasses right on the spot. And then we would present them, and some of them have been in there a while. The lights are terrible, and they're not able to read. And they put these on, and what we do is we have them read scripture to us. So the
Oh,
first time
wow.
they put on a pair of glasses and they can see, and they read scripture to us, and it's in Spanish. And just to see their kind of just their some happiness, in a dark place. And so that was something I did. Oh my goodness, for about 6 years, once a month, without fail, driving into Mexico and going to prisons. And then we would periodically do house builds. And then a year and a half ago, I actually went to Africa, and we went to Uganda to a refugee camp, which is it's more of an established it's not a camp anymore. They're not refugees. I mean, they're there to stay. And to work with those people who have nothing. And we did the same thing. We would do eyeglass ministry, and then we would read scriptures with them, and then we did mass food distribution. We had thousands and thousands of pounds of rice and beans, and we'd bag them, and then people would line up for miles, and we'd give out food. But it's it's just reaching people. This is people reaching people. And then, I would always hear from, oh, well, you know what? There's so much to spare and stuff in the United States. Why do you got to go to another country? It's like, yes, we have our own set of problems here, but when you're called by the Holy Spirit to do something, you don't question it. You just do it. But I did, when I was in California, we did run the local outreaches. We went down to Skid Row. We do health fairs and go to different functions, and we do the same thing. We're not able to make classes in the United States because of legal ramifications, but we were able to do readers, and you have them read scripture, and the font change. It's like, okay, here you need a 1.25, and they put them on, and we'd pray over them and lay hands. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's very fulfilling, and it's something I don't talk about a whole lot with people. So it's out of the bag now.
Thank you so much, because I wanted to get to your faith, to be quite honest with you, because I learned within about 10 minutes of talking to you at NCI that you were a man of faith, right? And I'm a bivocational pastor, been pastoring, this is my 19th year, and was raised in a Christian home. Actually, I started off with a Christian mom and an alcoholic dad, and ended up with Christian parents. It was my mom wanted my father through her conduct, just like Peter tells us to do. And so
Yeah.
I found that there's so many people of faith in our industry, and it's not something we talk about as much as maybe we could, or for whatever reason. A lot of times it's just time constraints and all that. When we're together, we have to talk about what we're doing, with our industry, and do those things. But it's great when you finally have those moments where you can just sit and just be ourselves and really talk about it. And so you encouraged me. You may not realize, but being a bivocational pastor is not always easy, and just when you run into someone of faith and you get that refreshed feeling. And you did that for me, even though you didn't know it. I was tired when I was out there that trip, and I was going through a lot, and just having that conversation, because you told me about Mexico, I remember that. And it was just like, wow, it's really, it's just really touching. And so I'm glad you brought it up early, because I was going to bring it up if you didn't. So I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for your faithfulness to your belief in Christ, and that you share that. Matter of fact, I'm jumping way down on the list. We'll get to the HVAC stuff in a minute. But you taught Anthony Wu Proverbs 27:17.
Yes.
And then he won an award.
Yes. And he said that from the stage.
Yes, he did. I'm sorry. It makes me emotional. I'm sorry. But seeing that impact that you had on that young man, and how you still have an impact on him, and to see him get up there and quote that in front of everybody.
Yes.
Iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. My heart was so full at that moment. I know yours had to be.
It was like a proud dad moment,
It was. And so I know that you went up there and did some training for him. I think you did, right? Didn't you do some and helped him? Tell me how that came about. How did you ended up teaching Anthony that Proverb 27:17? How did that come about?
He, first of all, anybody who knows Anthony, and I don't have to tell you this, kid's on fire. He's on fire. And he reminds me of a younger me. When I first got exposed to things, I was like a sponge. I just wanted every single training I could get my hands on. And so that's where he's at now, and he's growing his company. And he had seen a couple of my podcasts or videos online, and then we became friends on social media, and he reached out, and he was asking some questions. How do I get into this? How do I get into that? And I said, are you familiar with NCI? And he said, no, I'm not. I said, well, you need to be. And I said, I'm going to be presenting, and I'm going to have a booth at the NCI. And was it? I forgot where it was. but I had a dust-free booth that I was setting up, right? A Rector Seal dust free booth. And so he says, I'm coming. And so he got on a plane and he flew there and he got there a day early. And so we met and we sat down and we just talked about all kinds of stuff. And then he helped me set up my booth and we went out to dinner. And then he was interested in training. And I asked, I think I sent him a text because he was grateful for me mentoring him. And I sent him a text about Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And he goes, that's amazing. I don't know where his faith is, really. It doesn't matter. But he's latched on to that and he lives by that.
He,
And it's
he,
amazing.
he very much does. And you paved the way with him. I'm actually going up there next week
Yeah,
to do some
awesome.
training for him as well. Just the moment I met him, I was helping Joe Madosh teach the science of HVAC class last year, and Anthony's there. And the moment he walks in the room lights up. I mean, it's just his way, and he's so full of energy, and it's not fake. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, he's really
He
trying to
is.
just soak up everything he can, and he just just makes friends so easy. He's such a great just human being. And he shared that with us there in Measure Quick, during that class, telling us about that verse, and John Ellis taught me this, and I'm like, this is just way, way cool. And so, yeah, you plant seeds that way, right? You plant seeds that way, and I could just see that effect that you had on them, and it's so wonderful to watch. It really is. Um, I do want to shift to a question that I'm sure that I'm interested in. I'm sure a lot of other people want to know is, I've just known you over the last few years for like the dust free and all that, but how did you get into HVAC? Like what's the evolution of John and how he got into HVAC and then how he ended up specializing in indoor air quality and becoming the premier go-to person when it comes to IEQ? How did all that happen?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's very organic. Very organic. It wasn't like I woke up and said, "Hey, I want to do this. This is who I'm going to be, and this is the direction I'm going to go." So, uh, this will be my 45th year in the industry. So, how long is this show? I'll give you the elevator version. I started as entry level as you could possibly get, sweeping floors and doing UPS at a supply house. And
Wow.
a friend of mine was a counter guy, and it's like, "Hey, John, we need a warehouse guy." And it's like, "Sure," came in, and as parts came in, I would learn what they were and put them on the shelf with all the other parts, but never fully understanding what they did. And I did that for about a year, and then the friend that got me a job that was on the counter, he got approached and got a job at an air conditioning company, and it wasn't 30 days later, he's like, John, we need somebody. You want to come over? And it's like, yeah, I'm there. And so I went over and started to work with him at an HVAC company. And so, very, very, very entry level. And I was just a helper. I was a grunt and and go in attics and tear stuff apart and, started to get a feel for what everything was. And then, as I was learning, now this is 46 years ago. So I started learning, how and why and what, and they put wrenches in my hands and let me do stuff, and um, we were. I spent a lot of time crawling under houses and changing B60 gas valves on floor furnaces because that was popular
Oh,
back
wow.
in.
Yeah.
And then we were doing maintenance on swamp coolers or evaporative coolers because that's California, and you don't have those in the South for obvious reasons.
No.
So we learn how to do that and learn how to change motors and smoked a couple motors process and then we had a lot of apartment building contracts, and so we would go to these apartment buildings with the stake bed. We start pulling window bangers out of the walls, load them on the stake bed, we'd number them, right? And take them down to the car wash and pressure wash them, and then go take them back and put them in.
Oh my goodness.
So So again, that's about as entry level as you could get. And then I really took a liking to the install side because I love building stuff with my hands, as I really took a liking to that. And so that's how I got started. And then through the years, moving from company to company, and I like to describe this as everywhere you go, you pull knowledge and experience from wherever you're at, and you put it into a box, right? And those blocks become building blocks. And so I took that entry level stuff with the supply house in this first company, and then I put a block, and then I went to the next thing, and then that became another block, and then you're just stacking those blocks on top of one another of knowledge, expertise, and experience to kind of build a resume, if you will. And I would say the construction side really intrigued me, and then that's where I spent most of my career. I was never a service guy running service calls. I was always on that side.
Oh
Now, when
wow.
I owned my company, now I know secrets of operation. I know how to use tools and meters, and I could probably fumble my way through things, but that's never what I wanted to do. I wanted to build stuff with my hands. So in my career, I started with just small systems and installing swamp coolers and duct systems and residential. But then as I went forward, I ended up joining the sheet metal union. I was a pipe fitter in the pipe fitters union doing refrigeration racks, and I was in the engineers and operators union. I was a stationary engineer operator at UCLA, which is cogen and working on stuff. I've ran ducts as big as this room I'm in, and I've ran 3-inch ducts. And so those are the building blocks as we go. And then I got exposed to training, and it's like the whole light bulbs and the fireworks. And so once I got exposed to training, it was I just wanted more and more and more and more. And I got some training in the pipe fitters union. I've got some ASHRAE training through the engineers and operators. Um, excuse me. As a sheet metal guy, I can go to the bench and make anything.
Wow.
Right, anything you name it, I can go fold it up. And I learned how to do the layouts. And then as I started doing bigger and bigger projects, and I was in charge of projects, I would go and do layouts of whole buildings, all the sheet metal, and then order it and bring it back, and then have my guys install it, and it all fit. And so I can fold just about anything over the tailgate of my truck as well with that knowledge. But you see, there's just skill sets and different blocks, and you learn and you learn and you learn. And then I met a guy named Scott Johnson, and he just blew my mind because I had a pretty good idea on how all this stuff worked, and it was through an organization in California, IHACI, and he was the education chairman, and they were offering training, and so I did all the Nate stuff, all the way from start to finish, did it all, and then started in on the building science stuff, and then did BPI. And then my friend Scott Johnson was a proctor and a super proctor and a train the trainer, and he was writing standards for BPI. It was the California version, the CBPCA or something like that, because California, they have to be their own.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but then he's like, John, you need to check out NCI. I'm like, cool, because he was teaching a lot of their stuff in our classes. But he goes, you really need to get into NCI. So I joined, and I think it's 19 years ago, I joined NCI, and I flew to San Jose, California, and I took my very first air balance class, commercial air balance, with Rob Falk.
Oh
You
wow.
know, rest in peace. And that was kind of the start of a new beginning of measuring and testing and verifying what you do. And then from there, I started my own business. And I was working for a company for goodness 12, 13 years, and I went to the owner and I said, hey, you know what, there's part of this industry we're missing. And I sketched out a business plan on a napkin, and I said, hey, would you like to help me get started? They said, let's do it. So that birthed SoCal Air Dynamics. And on my van, it didn't say heating and air conditioning. It said performance contracting. And so when everybody in California was running and getting HERS certified to be HERS raters, I went a different direction. I got my air balance certification, and I was doing commercial air balancing hand over fist. Like most companies run service calls, I was doing air balancing because in California, you can't even build a dress shop in a strip mall without having an air balance report for a CFO.
Oh, wow.
And then everybody was calling me. And so then I started doing bigger and bigger and bigger air balance projects and got into all kinds of neat stuff. And I like to say that the foundation, well, first of all, my mentors like Scott Johnson and other people put a good foundation under my feet. But what I learned from NCI from the very beginning, learning airflow diagnostics, air balance. They have a class. I don't know if they offer it anywhere but California, but I got economizer certified, and it's a commercial system performance certified. So all those things gave me enough skill set to do things that most contractors will never do. And I'm actually speaking at the next summit, right? And I'm going to be kind of laying some of this stuff out, but I'll go through a couple things. So I get a call, and they're like, it was from the Toyota dealership, and it was in Pasadena, and they're like, John, we need to have our garage where we work on the cars certified for the emissions exhaust system. I'm like, okay. Now I've never done that. NCI doesn't teach you how to do that, but I know airflow and I can read blueprints. And so what it is and this was a big dealership, and they had two banks of cars in this giant garage that they could probably work on probably 15 or 20 cars at a time, right, in each bay. They have a snorkel that comes down and attaches to the exhaust system. So all the exhausts go out. So I went in, took some measurements. I had some motors that were failing and measured it, and had their house guy fix it, told them what to do, and submitted a report. And they're, John, this is fantastic. We have about 12 other dealerships that need to be certified. I'm like,
wow.
Let's get started. So I did 12 dealerships.
Wow.
And did I no one ever taught me how to do that. But with the foundation that I learned from NCI, I was equipped. I got another call. It's like, John, we got a high-rise building down on Wilshire, and we're doing our fire safety test, and we need to get our stairwell pressurization test done. Can you do that? Well, sure. Have I ever done it before? No. Did NCI teach that? No. So I did a little research. I can read blueprints, and I know how to measure air. And I went down there, looked at the prints, measured the air. I had to buy a tool. It's a little tool. To simplify it, it's almost like a fish scale where you measure fish, except it measures foot-pound of square inch on the doors, both pushing and pulling. And they had to meet a certain criteria with the systems on. And so I had to balance it out so there was not too much resistance pushing or pulling the doors. Went through, set it all up, adjusted dampers, went and tested the doors myself. Next day, fire department comes and says, let's go, John. So we went, he tested it, he goes, good job. Signed off on my report. And the guy tells me, hey, I know several building managers on up and down Wilshire that need to have this done. Are you interested? Hey, let's get started.
Wow.
And so those are just a couple of examples of taking the skill set that we learn, but applying it to stuff that's outside of the box. Just be imaginative. It's like at the end of the day, it's air, right? It's moving air, it's airflow, it's dampers, it's being able to measure it, and so.
That's amazing. Because you're exactly right. I mean, once you learn how to measure air, then you can apply it to anything the air is moving in, right? And so that's what you're saying. I mean, it's like, okay, never measured airflow in that snorkel system, for the exhaust, but it's air, and I know how to measure it. Yeah, I know how to measure it because the standard of measurement, right, cubic feet per minute is all over, not just in the HVAC industry, right? I mean, that's just, we think about cubic feet per minute. We even talk about that on carburetors, right? On race engines, right? How many CFM,
Absolutely.
right? It's old Hollies, right? 650, right? It's
Yes.
all rated on CFM, and so that is amazing, and I love that. First off, the fact that you're willing to push the boundaries, right? Because a lot of people just always want to play it safe, where instead it's like you had these principles, now let's put it to work, right? Let's go figure this out, and that's where ingenuity is born that way, right? Is just wanting to discover
Yeah.
more and do more. That's amazing. So,
Wait. Before you go forward,
uh,
let's not forget what the question was about and how
right?
did this all lead me to IAQ?
Yes, that's what I was getting ready. That's my next thing was okay. How did we get to
Yeah,
IAQ? Okay,
yeah,
good, good.
yeah. Um, and so this is really condensed. But yeah, getting into building science and then being known in my industry, I would work with other contractors and help them with airflow and different diagnostics and different things. I got approached quite by accident, organic again, by a gentleman named Gene Sperling. He was a respiratory pharmacist by trade, got his degree in pharmacology from the University of Oklahoma. He says, John, I want to learn this building science stuff. Here's what I want to do. So he did. He got himself some BPI and some HERS and did a little HVAC. But he owned a brick and mortar. He closed that down and was doing pharmacy audits. And he's like, and he did some stuff through the Indoor Air Quality Association and did for mold and different things. So he was really on the fast track. And he's John, I'm really tired of big pharma just throwing prescriptions at people and the way doctors treat it. They get approached by big pharma and say, hey, here's what this is. Here's how it's supposed to treat it. I'll send you and your whole family to Fiji or Hawaii. Can you do me a favor? Can you prescribe this to your clients? And what that does is they grease their palms, and now the pharmacy companies are getting free R&D, and that's kind of how they operate. And it's no secret, but that's kind of what they do. And
Yeah.
our industry does the same. Hey, if you sell X amount of insert manufacturer here, we'll send you and your team to Hawaii. Uh, so we joined up, and he said, let's go fix some houses. And so we teamed up together, and we had a relation. He had a relationship with the LA Children's Hospital, UCLA Medical Center, USC Medical Center, and several prominent immunologists, oncologists, and allergists in and around the greater Los Angeles and Beverly Hills area. He already had a relationship with these folks, and so he approached them with a holistic approach and told them what we're doing. And then I got to go and sit down with some of these doctors to give them my perspective and talk science and physics. And they got it. And it's like, here's what we're going to do. And then, and so the doctors from the establishments I just mentioned would actually prescribe our services to their clients. Gene would go in and he'd do a full environmental audit. And what's fantastic is he can go in and they bring all their medications out, however many they may be. He knows exactly what they are, what they're treating, what medications can be used in conjunction with others and not, and diet and all that stuff he knew from being a PhD in pharmacology. And so I would come in and I do the building science testing and the HVAC testing, and then we create a scope of work, and then we would do the scope of work. He would monitor it, and the doctors were coming back to us totally amazed that they've got clients going off medication. We had a client that I share this in my class. Her name is Helen, COPD, 50 something percent lung capacity, really advanced stages. We went in, changed her complete environment, cleaned it up, diet and exercise. She went off half her medication, and her doctors were reporting back to us that she was having increased lung capacity, not diminishing. They said this never happens.
Oh wow.
Once you have advanced COPD, you start that downward and it never reverses. It did reverse. And it was a combination of everything. It wasn't like we were the magic wand. She was, clean environment, diet, exercise. She had a physical therapist, and her doctors working with her. Those were the results we were getting, and it was amazing. So we did that for several years, and he was monitoring everybody really close, and we kind of had this process we would follow, and he'd feed me pictures and information and stuff about the client and what they're experiencing, and I would go in, and that's how I really learned a lot about the medical side of what we do, not just the science and mechanical side. So that's how I got started, and it was nothing short of amazing.
Wow, that is an amazing story. And to think, man, that is so holistic, right? I mean, the, when I mean holistic, I mean you're addressing everything in the home, right? The not only the person's health and what they're going through internally, but also their environment. And I mean that is amazing. And I got to tell you, so I, and I get a little emotional on this one too. But so I live in the house that I grew up in. My father passed away in 2022. I ended up buying my sister out, and my mother died of an autoimmune disease that was kind of rare called CREST. It was an acronym, but had to do with respiratory. Each one of those words meant something, but R was for respiratory. And she had a diminished lung capacity and was on oxygen. But her thing was, it wasn't that she couldn't breathe in, she couldn't exhale. She had a problem with exhaling her diaphragm and all this kind of stuff. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I was in the OEM world for so long that my job was really making sure that I could get the equipment to run and run according to the specification as the OEM designed it. I wasn't into the building science part of it. It wasn't until I finally walked away from that world. I'm like, there's so much more to this. I've been so concentrated on the equipment. Um, and so I started digging deeper into the building science and all. And so I bought this house, and my house was never really comfortable. The system was oversized, all this stuff. So I come in, do some rehab work, and downsize the system what it needs to be to get better dehumidification. But there was a moisture problem in the crawl space. So fast forward last fall, me and my wife and our two sons and my son's wife, we went away to a lake house that we rented for a week to go fishing and hang out. And I felt better. I just felt better. And so I come home, and within 2 hours, my dog is, and I noticed like my dog wasn't scratching. I got two little dachshunds, and one of them has like allergies. She was scratching all the time. The whole time we were down in the lake house, no scratching. Within 2 hours of being back home, I'm already feeling like foggy, and my dog's scratching again. I'm like, what is it about this place? I already knew I had a moisture problem that I was fighting against. And so I ended up putting an IAQ monitor in, and lo and behold, I mean, the humidity is just out of control. Filtration wasn't great. And so I started making these changes and actually made a reheat system out of my current heat pump. Long story how I did that. But anyway, I created this reheat system to get the humidity level where I needed to be while I'm still trying to fix the crawl space. And it's amazing how much better I started to feel. And I got to tell you, it hit my heart so bad, John. I'm sitting on my couch one day and it just hit me. If I'd have known this when my mother was alive. Now, listen, we all we all have an appointed time to leave this world. I believe you and I both believe that.
Yeah,
But man, could I have made her stay here better? Could I have made it more comfortable for her? And it just
yeah,
really hit me that, the environment, our home is our environment that we're in a lot. Now we're kind of outdoorsy people. We like to be outside, but so much of the time, especially in the winter months, we're spent inside. And it's like this environment that we're in is so important that we treat that correctly. And
hmm
so IAQ is something like I honestly never really delved into because it just didn't have a need to, and it wasn't the scope of work that I was used to doing, right? Because I was the mechanical guy. I could make the stuff run. I could make it do what it's supposed to do, commission it correctly,
yeah,
check, make sure the airflow is correct. I could do all those things, but I wasn't worried so much about the quality of the air in the space. And man, after that realization hit me, it's like now I've been trying to soak up every bit that I can. And to think that you and that doctor would go into a home and look at holistically not only the person's personal health, but the environment they were breathing in and living in, and help them that way is just, man, we need more of that. That sounds amazing. I wish
yeah,
my mother would have had that. It's wow. I could just think about that for a long
yeah.
time.
And we look back, and the same's true. Like with NCI, the question would always arise. It's like, oh man, I wish I would have known this stuff. And now that I'm measuring, I've got probably 50 systems I installed that probably aren't right. And so, does that mean I have to go back and go fix them all? No, because you didn't know. Um,
Right.
I actually had a client with Crest,
Oh,
a
okay. So you know what it is. Yeah.
17-year-old girl in Houston, Texas, and Houston's got some some
Humidity.
tall hurdles to get over with humidity. Uh, she actually wore a iron lung prosthetic that, because she could breathe in but couldn't breathe out, this she would breathe in and this prosthetic would push and collapse her lungs to force her to breathe out. And so this was a prosthetic. Now I don't know if they had that when your mom was, you know,
Yeah.
but
I don't
this is
know.
this is what she wore, and so we went in and did some testing, and there was some issues, and well, we cleaned it up. I actually worked with a guy from NCI. He took my class, so he was up to speed on that, and he's pretty astute with the building science. I went out there and worked with them. We created a scope of work. He sold that job for $60,000. No equipment, but just all the ductwork had to come out. He added ventilation, dehumidification controls, really just cleaning up everything, putting it all back together correctly. Uh, got a couple portable units for her room, and she's doing much better. Now, we're not going to cure that.
Right.
Hopefully, there's advances made, but so I'm very familiar with that, and yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. Most people would never heard of Crest, so the fact that you have just kind of almost gave me chills there for a second. But yes, my mom passed in 2012, and there was never any discussion of any of those type devices available back then. I don't know. Maybe it could have been her doctor. They honestly found it so late that
uh,
once they kind of found it and realized, because it's just not something most people test for, right? It was just, and it took a panel of doctors to figure it out.
yeah,
Um, but it's now sent me on this path. It's like, we live in these environments and we need to be taking care. And I've been helping a group out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's really getting in, trying to help educate, contractors about indoor air quality and about proper filtration and just, because it's just not something that's discussed very, very much. I mean, people are so worried about changing boxes that they forget that you could have $1 million home, and if you're not comfortable in it and you can't breathe well in it, it's just $1 million boat anchor to me, right? It's like,
oh, I got stories of multi-million-dollar homes, and they spend all their money on marble fireplaces and granite countertops, and the high-end appliances and all the stuff. Uh, and then I go in and test the HVAC, and it's not worth a plug nickel.
yeah,
And it's like, well, what happened?
well, that's exactly right. And I remember working for this is back in the early 2000s with the big boom. You remember when we had that big economic boom that finally collapsed, but they couldn't build houses fast enough. This is in like Northern Virginia area, right? And Loudoun County and Fairfax County. Loudoun County is the richest county in the nation. I think LA County's next, and then Fairfax County, right? So two of the richest counties in the nation, and first and third, and they can't build houses fast enough. And we were like, okay, you're allowing people to upgrade everything under the sun, but what about the HVAC system? Even then we were like, what about better filters? What about humidifiers? What about dehumidifier? All these different kind of things that we were talking about. And they're like, they didn't want anything to do with that. They allowed them to spend all this
Right,
money in upgrades, but then they had this base model, right? And it doesn't matter the brand. It happened to be Goodman at the time, but just because they had a national thing with Goodman, and that's fine if you put it in right and design it right. I don't, I'm not a brand snob by any means, but it's like they just had these base model systems that was the minimum SEER, and they didn't care, and they were going in houses that one job was starting. The houses started at 1.1 million on a production
mhm,
job now, near Tyson's Corner, Virginia. It was crazy. And I'm like, you guys are lost your mind. They wouldn't let us because it's easy to sell the upgrades because you can see it with plumbing and electrical, right? These electrical fixtures, chandeliers, marble, all those things because they're visual and people want that status. But when it came to what actually made them comfortable in their home, they could not give a plug nickel.
Yep.
It's pretty sad. Problem is though is that it still continues in a large population. Right?
Oh, it does.
It's so refreshing to be at NCI and see the people that do care, but it's such a small portion of how many people are really out there. So let's transition to how did you get to the DF-16? What was behind, like, how did you develop that, and what was the process like of you developing? Explain what it is, number one, because I won't explain it right, although I can
Yeah.
visualize and see it. But explain DF-16, how you developed it, how long it took, and and the benefits that we know that exist with it.
Okay. So first off, it's V-bank filtration, not new, right? Um, and there are other filters on the marketplace today like it. And and I used to do a lot of work with a competitor that had a product that was very similar to that. So their performance wasn't exactly forthcoming. They kind of fudged the numbers, and their business model sucked. So I'm not going to name names. So anybody that understands will know what I'm talking about. And so I saw a need to fill that void. And contractors are calling me up. It's like, John, what's going on over there? And it's like, I don't know. And so what I did is I met the folks over at Dust Free. Well, first of all the different PCOs, ionizers, all that kind of stuff. I was on a mission to learn everything I possibly could about them. And so, insert name of manufacturer there, I'd call them, all of them, and say, hey, I'm just a tin knocker, but I'm kind of a numbers geek. And can you tell me what testing methodology I can use in the field to quantify, qualify, and verify that everything you're saying your device can do is actually happening in my customer's home? Oh, John. Oh, John.
You asked the
Oh,
wrong.
the amount. Is that a pretty simple, straightforward
It is
question?
a very good question, but I bet it blew them out of the water.
The amount of money you would need for this and for that and for testing, and it's like because they all do it in a lab in a petri dish, right? That's yeah, and so so Dust Free has some of those devices because if our competitors are going to make one, we're going to make one, and I got to say they make a darn good one, and the craftsmanship is beautiful for that. And I made it perfectly clear that I don't endorse any of that stuff, and that's okay. That's okay. It's almost like you got to, if you want to be competitive in that market space, and X, Y, and Z is making one. Well, you kind of got to make one too, and so they did, and they make a beautiful one. And so I talked to Josh, and I said, hey, you know what? I asked him that same question, and he's the only one out of all of them that said, hey, John, before I installed any of these devices, I take care of humidity, moisture, filtration. And he just went through it and infiltration. And I'm like, Josh, I love you. He was the only one. Everybody else had tried to, you know, tiptoe and dance around what I asked them and come up with all kinds of this and that. But Josh, straight to the point. Before I do any of that, here's what I would do. And that started our relationship. And then I met Greg, who is the owner. And then we did some trainings together and different things. He had me as keynote speakers for some events, and then I said, "Hey, Greg, we have a we have an opportunity in the industry right now to fill a void, and this is what we got." And I shared it with him, and I said, we don't have to invent a new mousetrap. We just build the best one, and that's what I tell people. I didn't invent the mousetrap. We just built the best one, and so that began a 2-year journey. And so I worked hand in glove with the engineer. And here's what's really cool: the competitor, they just did what they did, and that's fine. But I took the field and I took NCI with me into the laboratory, into the design, into the engineering, and it says, this is what I need. This is what I need. And it was a tall order. Devin, the young engineer, was hungry and he's like, yeah, this is cool. So we went to work. uh, computational fluid dynamics, material procurement. I was very clear on what we needed for filter median and being able to use all 5 filtration methods. Nanofiber technology. It was really, really specific on how we needed to go to market with the filter media itself. Um, they actually get it from Europe because no one in the United States make it. They bring it here, and then it's pleated and made here in Texas.
Oh
And
wow.
so the filters are glue bead technology and gasketed, so there's no leakage. So several trips to the lab and going through testing and tweaking and finally getting what I needed. Excuse me, I need a drink.
Absolutely.
We're like, I think we got a product. So we put it together. We went into the lab for our ASHRAE 52.2 credentials, which is set up by ASHRAE, and it's a standard for everybody to follow to get your MERV rating. And so we went in and we got our MERV 16 rating. And so Greg said, that's not good enough, John. I'm like, okay. So our filter's got a MERV 16, right? He's like, we got to get a MERV 16 on the whole system. So we got 2 credentials. Not only are the filters themselves ASHRAE 52 MERV 16, but the whole cabinet assembled together has an ASHRAE 52.2 credential. Nobody else does that.
Oh wow. Yeah.
But Greg's like, if we're going big. So we get about 98% filtration. We're about a click below HEPA, but we're MERV 16. So we get about 98% filtration. We do substantial work in a PM 2.5. We get ultra low static drop on the unit that does 4 and 5 ton at 2,000 CFM, 492 feet per minute. We're coming at a 0.16.
Wow.
I got guys putting them in the field live, coming in way lower than that. But when you do publish data, you got to be a little conservative with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so the unit that does 1 to 3 tons, that's coming in at a 0.13.
Amazing.
Our loading curve is 3 years on a system. We will take a hit on the static pressure drop, but we will never filter any less than 98%. Our competitor, after about 4 or 5 months in use, goes from a MERV 16 to a MERV 14, just drops. We hold our MERV 16 for the 3 years. We've got a very robust electrostatic attraction, and so our front loading on the filter is stellar, but our secondary loading is just as robust. That's why we're able to hold the MERV 16 rating for the life of that filter. And so they're selling right now at True Tech Tools, and my goodness, I got a guy. He's an NCI guy. He's in Nashville. He I've been coaching him and mentoring him for many years, and he's on fire. He was buying everything they had. They were selling out every other week, selling out. So it's been really good. We're still working on 2-point distribution now. Since the development of the DF16, Dust Free was acquired by Rector Seal. And so that changed the game a little bit, but we're working, they're working on 2-point distribution. We've got a handful of suppliers that stock them, mostly because we've got contractors requesting that. So we're working on that. It's hard to get a supplier that's just mostly wanting to move boxes, understanding the value of our parts and accessories and replacement parts and accessories and all the stuff it takes to do what we do.
Right.
It's hard to have them see the vision. It's like, oh, well, it's so much. Well, yeah, it's a premium product, but I've already proven to the company they're selling.
Yeah.
So been amazing. It was so fun working with the engineers. It was so fun watching them develop the computational fluid dynamics and actually see it run, see the program run, and it's like, hey, this is looking pretty good. But then, and taking that information and putting it into a physical product, a whole new world for me because I've never been on that end, and it was just amazing.
What a great it's a great story, but what a great product as well. Wow. That's amazing. I know there was nothing else out here that matches it, but just hearing what all went into its development, and it's just amazing. But I also love hearing your passion, right? Because it comes through, right? Because it's something that you invested heavily in, did all the research, and everything is first class, and that's just that is so amazing. There's so many snake oil products out here. It's amazing to actually have a product that does what it says and works correctly, and um, I hope more people adopt it. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to rearrange. I have a mechanic room that's too tight because it's downflow, it's a counterflow in a closet. And I'm like, okay, I got to blow this thing open because that's the next thing I need to install in my system. I'll want one here for sure. That is,
I think the biggest thing about the development of the DF16 is that other manufacturers don't have the opportunity to bring the field into the laboratory. They're always taking the lab out. It's like, hey, and the products come out, and it's like, have you ever been in the field? And so for me to be able to take the field into the lab and take NCI with me,
yeah,
metaphorically,
yeah.
it's huge. And here we are.
Yeah, it's an amazing job, and definitely applaud you, and my hat's off to you for what you've done, and it just makes you wish more people would develop in that way because I know exactly what you're saying. I can't tell you how many times in the OEM world I spent 17 years on tech support for OEMs, and how many times I asked the engineer, "Have you ever been in the field? Have you ever seen this stuff installed? Do you know how this works?" I mean, it's
Yeah.
because it's like you did not engineer this stuff with the thought that you got to work on it. You just didn't, and everything in the lab. I know that sometimes they'll take lab conditions and they'll make it harsh environments or whatever. I've been in those rooms and stuff, but at the end of the day, they're not tested for bad electrical, right, issues, right, power that goes up and down. I live in a rural area, the wind blows and the power lines move around. You would be surprised how much voltage fluctuates and all these kind of great.
Well,
Yeah,
here too. I got a
yeah.
backup generator. We're just waiting.
Just waiting. Yeah, I saw online on Facebook actually where you had got that all together. It looked really cool. I actually have a similar setup because I live in the woods, and power going out is, well, it's not uncommon. So you just got to be prepared. But it seems like there's a lot of these things that don't get tested for, and they're not kind of maybe thought through. But taking that field experience, those years of understanding and knowing, and being able to walk in there with the understanding of how things really work in the real world, and being able to design the product based on that, and work with that engineer. My hat's off to the engineer too, who actually allowed you to speak into him about those things. That's a great combo right there, and I'd like to see a lot more of it done. It's that's a great story. Now you offer training, and now I know that the future holds something different for you, and I'm gonna get there in a minute. But just for now, describe a little bit. You don't have to deliver the information, but when someone gets John Ellis to come there and do IAQ training, what does that look like? Like, what are the topics that you cover, and just kind of let me hear what that looks like because I've never sat through one of your trainings you've done for a contractor.
Yeah. Well, we need to get you into one.
I do.
Yeah. Um, so this is all my years of experience pulled into this class, and it's building science, building forensics, and indoor air quality from a mechanical point of view. I built this curriculum for the HVAC industry. Now, I was very fortunate. Daikin approached me and said, "Hey, John, we want to create a curriculum, and and we heard you're the guy." And then so I had an interview, and they asked me some questions, and I was like, "Oh, great, here we go." They asked me some questions about PCOs and ionizers, and I'm like, "Great, this can go either way." And so I answered honestly. I said, "I cut the cords off of them as fast as contractors can install them." And I said, "Let's get back to basics." And fortunately, the guy that was interviewing me, his name is Ben Milton, he comes from an IAQ background, and he is totally in line with everything I had to say. He
Uh,
says, "You're hired." So Daikin gave me the platform. I spent 2 years writing the book, creating the curriculum and the PowerPoint, and getting it ready for to be presented. And once the book was done and turned into Daikin, it had to go through legal. Never had to do that before. That was excruciating.
Oh, I can only imagine a lawyer picking that apart.
Well, because there's certain things you can't say. Now, if it's in print and it has their name on it, that's they scrutinize it. They put it under a microscope.
Yeah.
Saying stuff like health and medical, different things, and then when I quote, I have to source it, and so it took us a while to source things, but we got through it, and then of course, legal department has no idea on how to do edits or writing or anything, and they started pulling stuff out, and it got back. Now, my wife helped me write the book. She was a writer and editor for a magazine, a trade show magazine, so she's very familiar with the trades. But she uses the Chicago AP style of writing. She's got a couple of softwares that help her edit and find problems. And so it was beautiful. They started pulling stuff out. Pages shifted. They weren't in the right number now, and they didn't follow the index. And we had orphan letters and orphan words, and it was
Oh
just a
my God.
mess. So we got it all fixed. We finally got it to where it was presentable, and then I started teaching for Daikin and Amanda Goodwin. We did the first one at Waller, Texas, and there's a gentleman, Dr. Mark Jackson, who is in charge of IAQ development for Daikin, and he's a doctor. He sat through my first class, and I was really nervous. And afterwards, I'm like, well, Mark, how'd I do? He goes, John, you superseded all my expectations. Great job. And that was the blessing I needed. So I finished up my 5-year do not compete with Daikin. So I taught for them for about 6 years. I am not teaching for them anymore. The company's going in a different direction now. They're really focusing on cell because of all the inverters and the Daikin Fit, and all three brands have their slim line and everything, and so all their attention's going that way. But that's okay. Here's a blessing. I didn't get paid to do any of that, and at the time I was kind of miffed about it. I'm like, man, we spent 2 years and we get a plug nickel out of this, right? I was upset,
Yeah.
but God knew. At the end of this relationship, and it was amicable. I own the intellectual property. I own the book. I own the PowerPoint. I own it all. So now I'm doing it privately. We pulled all the branding out of the book. It's our book. We renamed it Indoor Air Quality, Building Healthy Environments. We're taking it on the road, and we're doing it privately for contractors. I got one, like you said, next week in North Carolina, and
North Kakalaki.
it's been well received. I went out and did one for Anthony, and so that's what it is. We go over. So first of all, IAQ is multidisciplined, right?
Yes. Yes.
HVAC has the biggest impact on a structure, so it's HVAC, but it's the whole house is a system. We look at all the components of a house, right? Everything: roofing, framing, drywall, pressure boundaries, thermal boundaries, radiant gain, all that stuff. And the building science, infiltration. We look at combustion. We look at microbial, right? And I go through. I talk about purification. The second day of the class, we go into how to sell IAQ ethically, doing it ethically,
Yes.
not making promises for some snake oil that may or may not happen. And so it's 16 hours. It's 2 days. Been well received. It's very hands-on. Working for Daikin was an amazing experience. They really poured into us as trainers. We had events. We had train the trainers. They bring people in. I sat through a presentation from a lady named Jan Spence. She's a keynote speaker all over. I mean, that's what she did. Keynote. She did a presentation to us called Death by PowerPoint. We've all been there.
Oh yeah.
And they basically just copy and paste a page out of a book and put it on a slide, white background, black letters. and the presenter reads it. And I'm like, that is boring. And that's exactly what she was talking about. Death by PowerPoint. She taught us how to bring your presentation to life. Um, I started to take that deep dive into linguistic psychology, how words are spoken, how they're received, the tone of your voice, the volume of your voice, the cadence, how you hold yourself, being confident but not cocky and not arrogant, moving around, engaging with people, stand up, sit down. So we are very interactive. We've got several things that the class will do together. We've got some game. We got this one. It's called Tech Talk Trouble. As technicians, we're all excited because we know all this stuff, and then we go in and talk to the homeowner, and we're just like dumping the truck of knowledge on them. They glaze over. They feel
That's right.
inferior. They feel talked down to, like, oh, maybe I should know this stuff, and then they shut down.
Yep.
And so this game is called Tech Talk Trouble. We went out on Amazon and bought 1,000 um, Scrabble pieces, and we took words that are technical and long, and some names of like VOCs and different things, and like made words out of them, put them in a bag, hand them out, and say go. And guys struggle. And so it's just an opportunity to let them know you're struggling with words. How do you think your customer feels when you start barraging them with technical terms? So it's a fun game. And so, yeah. And then I bring all my testing tools. I got the whole back of my truck right now is filled with all my testing tools. Well, not all of them. I don't bring blower doors and stuff, but it's still full when I bring them and I say, hey, here's what we're talking about. These tools can test and give you data for what we need to figure out. So I try to bridge the gap between data and creating a solutions. We have to be solutions based, and knowing how to charge for it. I did a presentation called Turning Data into Dollars. I mean, when I first started this stuff, I was so excited I gave it away. Because I was just like, woo,
Yeah.
I'm Bill Nye the Science Guy. And then in hopes that I'm going to make up for it on the back end. Now, I had a very high closing rate in my business in California because nobody else is doing what I did. But other contractors don't have that luxury or aren't as far in their journey to be able to do that. But we got to be able to monetize that stuff.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I did, I spent 5 years working with the new flat rate, and it's menu pricing. And I don't know, do you know Rodney?
I know of them. Yes.
Oh, okay. So him and I developed the very first and only building science and IAQ menu pricing module that's within the new flat rate.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah. And it allows you to monetize the testing and get paid because all those tools weren't cheap.
Yeah.
And it isn't cheap to keep them calibrated either.
Right.
And so we have that broken into 3 categories. It would be air safety, and it's taking our testing instruments, measuring what's in the air, seeing the unseen. And then there's building safety, and that's all the building science stuff, and infiltration, and building pressures, and stratification, all that fun stuff we do, thermal boundaries. And then it would be mechanical safety, and that's all the stuff that NCI does. Static pressure, airflow, system performance, all that stuff. And so those are the 3 categories. And once you gather all the data, you sit, you look at it, and I call it IAQ, investigate, right? Gathering data, analyze the data, and then creating a scope of work, and then you can quote it, IAQ. And
Nice.
so that was fun, and that's out, and we got people using it with really good success. So that's been fun. And so I hope I didn't like go on a tangent.
No, no, it was phenomenal. So what about the book? Where can they get the book?
You can't. You got to take my class,
You
and it
got to
comes
take
with
the
the class.
class to get. Okay, okay, all
Yeah.
right. I
Yep.
thought
Yep.
that was the case, but I thought I was going to ask just in case. Don't want to cheat the system here. So no, and I love that, right? Because otherwise they get the book, they do it half-heartedly, and you know, because we see that. So I think that's the right approach. So um, So now, what's on the horizon for John? Because John's not going to be doing this training forever. So what's on the horizon for you?
Well, I just did a post on LinkedIn. I don't know if you saw it or not. It's you have a career, and this is our career. This is what we've been doing, and you spend years and years and years perfecting your craft, and you may have climbed up the corporate ladder. You may have been with a manufacturer. You may have owned a company. You may have been a loyal employee your whole life, and all that's okay. But there comes a time where you wake up and you're older and your body's slowing down, and you come to the realization that it may be time to retire. And then the questions we ask ourselves is like, do I have the resources to just quit working? Do I want to quit working? What's next? Where do I go from here? Those are some of the questions that keep us awake at night. Um, and then we always want to think, hey, what's my legacy? That may or may not cross some people's mind, but what's our legacy? Did I own a company? Can I pass it off to my family? Keep it in the family. Whatever that may look like to you. But I have always considered myself a torch bearer and not a gatekeeper. We got a lot of gatekeepers in this industry.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that for sure.
We do, it's better now. But when I was coming up through the union, there was a lot of gatekeepers that
Oof.
felt like if I teach you too much, my job's in jeopardy. But I feel very very comfortable at this stage in my life that I did my very very best to pass that torch to the next generation to let somebody else be the light and carry it forward. I feel really comfortable in that. But I'm also very comfortable with realizing where I'm at. I'm 67 years old. I just got a shiny new hip for Christmas, and that was an eye opener. I'm doing really well. My recovery's been nothing short of miraculous. I feel great. I'm moving. I wish I would have done it sooner. Um, so I'm really comfortable in that, and like I'm I'm okay letting go, and I'm ready, and my wife is ready too. Uh, this industry's been great. I'm so blessed to have been in this industry on many different levels and many different places in that. Um, and I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And so I'm going to retire. And I haven't put a lot of this out. Feel little dabs here and there, but I'm going to retire. And 2026 is more likely going to be my last year in the industry. Yeah. And so my wife and I, we love uh, international travel. We've been all over the world, and we've always wanted, we've always thought about what it would be like to live abroad and what all that's entailed. And so we started looking like in Greece and Italy and Malta. It's just beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but then our focus kind of shifted, and we thought, well, we're still going to be doing what we're doing now for a while. We actually were looking in Costa Rica, and we had made a couple trips. We actually found a beautiful place, and they've got some infrastructure problems, but it's only a 4-hour flight out of Dallas. It's like, hey, we could fly back. We can keep our car in a storage unit. We can drive around and do workshops and stuff for a couple of months, and then go home. And then we went last May. We went back again, and it was so flipping hot and humid and miserable. We looked at each other and said,
No
no.
way.
And they've got some infrastructure problems, and it's a rainforest, and there's lots of rain and flooding. And it's like, you know what, we've already dealt with that here. And so we shifted our focus back to the Mediterranean, and we fell in love with a little place called Tossa de Mar, Spain. And it's a 12th century town. It's got a castle fortification right on the Mediterranean Sea, turquoise water, cobblestone streets, 12th century little church with a bell tower. It is 1 hour from the French border. From the time it takes me to drive from Las Vegas, New Mexico to Dallas, we could drive to Rome on the Mediterranean coast. And it's the gateway into France. And there's just so much history just in Spain alone, and so much beauty there. When we were there, we went, we only went to one basilica and then one cathedral in a little town called Girona. It's gorgeous. There's hundreds and hundreds of those things all up and down. Portugal's right there. And so we found a place. It's still available. I'm waiting on a couple things to be put in place. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to ahead and pull my Social Security. I don't know if I'm getting too deep, and because I'm old enough, and with where and I've lived my life debt free for the last 15 years.
Good for you.
Zero debt. I'm a Dave Ramsey alumni.
Yeah, I'm a
So
Dave Ramsey fan. Been there too.
we followed his program to the letter, and so if I could give advice to everybody, get to that point. If it's not Dave Ramsey, something, get yourself to that point. It is so freeing. And people are like, oh, John, you must be rich. You're traveling all over the world all the time. And it's like, no, I don't have any debt. I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, go wherever I want, and not have to worry about it. And I do it on a budget, and I do it smart, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm gonna take a trip, which I'm going on a trip in April for the whole month of April,
Good for
I
you.
paid for it a year ago,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is not bragging. I'm saying this is just like a goal to get there. So that's where we're at. I'm excited. And
Dude, I can hear it in your voice. That sounds so cool. So I got to tell you, when you get over to Spain, my hopes is to be able to get over there and see you and your wife and have dinner with you, because my wife and I fell in love with Spain. We spent a week in Marbella,
mhm.
right on the Mediterranean. Matter of fact, we could look out our hotel window and see Gibraltar.
Oh, nice.
And then we went up to Ronda, the oldest city in Spain, hung up there, just fell in love with the culture there. I mean, the little towns, like you're saying, little cobblestone streets, and it's just the way of life there is different. The pace is different. People's outlook is
Yes.
different.
Siestas every day.
The shops would close down,
They
right?
closed.
They closed down for, it was like 2 or
Yeah.
3 hours. They closed down because they're having their biggest meal. They're going to take a siesta, and then they'll come back. It's like the American culture is so fast paced, and I want to get every dime I can. And that culture there is just much different. We want to go back. So,
And the food is so clean. Oh, the
uh,
Mediterranean food, Mediterranean diet. We've been kind of doing that anyway. We've been kind of plant based and fish for a while now. But yeah, open invitation as soon as we get settled.
we get back over there, I'm going to look you up. We'll come and buy you dinner just to have a reason. I'm like, John's over there. We got to go. Right.
Yeah,
So,
we're about two hours north of Barcelona.
yeah, it's just what a beautiful, beautiful place. I love hearing the excitement in your voice because you've worked so hard. You've done so much. You've poured into people. And I love that you get this blessing, right? But also, I do know that like living debt free and getting debt free and going through the Dave Ramsey program takes work, takes discipline. It's not easy.
Yes.
You sacrifice. You sacrifice now so that you can enjoy later. And I think
This is my later.
yeah, and the American way has kind of forgotten it, right? I mean, just be honest, it's just the culture we live in today, where people, matter of fact, they want it now and they'll pay later, right? When you think about credit cards and
Yeah.
and getting
Instant
enticed,
gratification.
yeah, instant gratification, right? Nobody wants to wait on anything. They don't remember what it was like when we were young, where we had to save money up for something. Save money up for something. I just, paid a credit. Oh, and don't even get me started on the 36 months, same as cash, which they never paid off in the 36 months. They end up with all that interest. I mean, it's these predatory kind of practices that people have fallen prey to, where the Dave Ramsey's method, we actually we have a Dave Ramsey coach at our church, and we offer this class a couple times a year for free.
Yeah, that's where I took it at church.
Yeah, we'll pay for it if you'll go through it and finish. So what we do is we make them put skin in the game. You pay 50%, and if you finish, we'll give you your 50% back.
Oh,
That's
that's
all.
awesome.
That's all we ask, right? And matter of fact, the financial coach we have, to be quite honest with you, this is going to sound weird. No, it's not weird, but you would understand it. But so he came to know Christ through finances, through the Dave Ramsey program. Because I tell you why, back in, I think it was 2020 when COVID hit, and then government shut down for a while and all these crazy things. He was working, he had a government job. And so next thing you know, he went 2 months without pay, and he's like, it about wrecked him. He's like, I never
Yeah.
want to go through this again. And so he started doing research. That's how he stumbled on the Dave Ramsey program. I say stumble, but we know it's by providence, right? By God's providence. Stumbled on the Dave Ramsey program. He come to know Christ by doing the Dave Ramsey program, because the last lesson of the Dave Ramsey program is all about the gospel message. And so it was amazing how he came through financial trouble, and that's how he came. And now you should see what this guy's doing now. It's like amazing. But we've had several people that our church go through. We've had people outside our church. Like, you don't have to go to our church. It's not just for people. I don't care who you are. If you want to go through this program and you finish it, it'll be free, because we want to see
Yeah.
people relieved of that burden, right? Because the Bible says that we're slave to the lender, right? And so the fact is that, people may look at it and say, "Oh, it's nice now that John gets to dance around the world here, going from country to country," but it's an investment. You worked
It
hard.
didn't happen overnight.
It did not happen overnight, and it took discipline. And I'm so thankful for you and your wife that you're able to do that. So
Yeah.
thankful for what you mean to our industry and how you're pouring into people. So thankful that you affect people like Anthony Wu, our good friend. It's just it's amazing. And I knew from the first minute I finally got to talk to you in Austin, and finally got to meet the real John Ellis, and not just see what you do in the IAQ world, but just talk to you as a person. And you started sharing your faith within 10 minutes or so. We were talking about Jesus. And so it was a great thing. And I could see the love that you have, not only for the industry, but for people. It shows up in your smile and when you're talking about it. So
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for all that you've done. And I pray for the blessings to just continue to roll for you and your wife as you're able to travel. And we sure hope you come back and help us from time to time as you go along. But it's so glad to hear that you guys got this. You got this mapped out, and you're just going to be able to go enjoy. It's just really, really cool. My wife and I are praying for the same thing. To be quite honest, we love to travel too. We've traveled internationally a little bit. We've been to Spain and been to to Mexico and some other countries down there. But we're looking forward to the day that we could also do the same, because we love to travel. We like being together. Isn't it amazing? Like husband and wife, God puts us together, and you actually enjoy each other. It's a great thing.
Yeah, yeah. And we get to travel and teach, and yeah, it's been really good. We're very well yoked.
Yeah, my wife and I are the same. I tell people it's like a lot of people talk about surviving marriage. I'm like, marriage was designed to thrive, not just survive. Marriage is not something you survive. It's designed for us to thrive. God looked at us and says, it's not good that man be alone. So he made a helper, right? He made someone to kind of help them, and they complete that picture together. And it's an amazing thing. And so I just pray for many years of you guys to travel and enjoy. And I'm glad you got your hip fixed, because when I saw you in Austin, you were really in pain. You were really struggling to walk.
It was brutal. Yeah, I was a hurting unit.
Yeah, but I saw the pictures. You're like bionic man now. You got this.
I guess so.
It is
Yeah.
awesome. It's amazing what God has gifted doctors to be able to do. Well, John, do you have any lasting thoughts for us? I know I've kept you on here a while, and I could talk to you all day. You have any lasting thoughts for us, for the folks in our industry, or anybody else who stumbles on this video? You got any lasting things that you would want to share?
Well, I don't know if I have any profound statements, but if this is your trade, if this is your industry, HVAC, be the best you can be, right? And it's not just about turning wrenches. I mean, you are helping people, and education, get training. I mean, it just opens up a whole world for you. It makes things a lot easier. And get in groups. Get on social media and find some groups. Some are better than others. Some of them are just bashers, but you weed through them and join some industries. HVAC school is just amazing. The NCI is amazing, and the Better HVAC Coalition. Rising tides lift all ships. Just great people to be with. They feed into each other. There's a lot of torchbearers and no gatekeepers. We share our stuff. So that's all. Just be the best you can be. So
Just
appreciate your time. Maybe we can do this again, and we can dive a little more into some of the technical fun stuff.
I would absolutely love that. I would love that. It's been amazing to get to talk to you and dig a little deeper just in who you are. But I would love to get into talk to technical stuff because I got questions. I know we couldn't cover it all today, but I got questions about the type of tools you use to measure. What some of these numbers mean. Some of these things are hard to explain. I would love to dig into that if you'd be open for that. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Cool
Yep.
deal. Well, John, thank you so much for your time. You are a true gentleman. You are a gift to us and to our industry, and we just really appreciate you with all that we are, and we're thankful for you. So, thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.